Welcome to the HR on the Offensive podcast, brought to you by Lace Partners. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, and welcome to an extra special edition of the HR on the Offensive podcast. And it's extra special because we're doing a little bit of something a little bit differently, because we're actually going to record this as a video as well. So if you're listening in on audio, apologies, but you can always find out a little bit more about our podcast and on our website. If you just go to our insights section, you'll see the video and you can find out all about all the things that we're doing at Lace Partners in terms of insights and things like that. But today's video/podcast, I have three guests with me. I'm going to introduce them in a second, but the reason why we've decided to turn this into an interesting video is because it's about a campaign that we're just about to launch. The campaign itself, you might be able to see in the background if you are watching this. If not, I will say it for those audio listeners, is Becoming Skills Powered. And we're really going to delve into this idea of skills-based organizations. And to do that, I have three experts. Those three experts, in order of how close they are to me. Pavan Bilkhoo, how you doing?
I'm good.
You good?
Yeah.
Excited to do this?
Very excited.
Not your first rodeo on the pods though, is it?
No, it hasn't. I'm a seasoned podcaster.
You are a seasoned podcaster. Yep. In fact, all of my guests today are seasoned podcaster, because Romy, you've been on it as well, haven't you?
It's not my first time, but it's my first time talking about skills exclusively. So that's pretty exciting.
Yeah. So Romy Hobson there from our marketing team. And last but by no means least, another experienced podcaster on the HR on the Offensive podcast, Gemma Ryall. How you doing?
Good, thanks.
Excited to get into the number of skills-based organisations?
Absolutely.
Cool. Okay, so what I think we should do is probably a little bit of a framing exercise to talk a little bit about why we're doing the campaign and then what a skills-based organisation is. And I'll get Pav to start on that first. But our tradition on this podcast is that we do a fundamentally different question. I get to pick them. So today's fundamentally different question is, because I thought I'd make it topical and skills-based, but I like to sort of evolve that a little bit more. So if each of you had a skill or a superpower, then what would it be? And I'll give you a second or two to think about it. For me personally, I'd like the ability to morph into any kind of shape or person that I like. So that's my one, Pav. What are you going for?
Along the same vein, I would say invisibility, but for similar reasons. So that
Quite creepy, that one.
Yeah, well, I just want to be a fly on the wall for certain big meetings.
Big meetings.
Ooh. UN meetings.
UN
Yeah. Just to be specific.
Rose, superpower or skill, you can go with any direction you want.
I would like to be able to breathe underwater, which sounds, but it is quite a kind of like swimming with the fishes vibe. But I do think it would give me, basically, isn't most of the world underwater? I'll explore a whole new world that way.
Yeah.
A whole new world. That's a totally different Disney movie. James.
I would like to understand and speak any language, be it computer-based or human.
I think that's a winner. That's actually she's absolutely smashed us there. Right, let's talk about the campaign itself. So Pav, I want you to kick us off. Talk to me a little bit about why we decided to run the campaign, and then I guess laced into that is what a skills-based organisation is.
Skills-based organisations for us has been everywhere in the HR industry news. We're seeing the word skill creep into government manifestos. Big players globally are thinking about skills-based organisations, but we also recognise that it can be quite overwhelming, all the things that are in the news and media. And what we wanted to do with this campaign is demystify what we mean by skills-based organisations and just make it really practical, bite-sized, and what could be feasibly done within a short period of time. So we're really thinking about this from a practical perspective.
Yeah, I think it's really important to note that as well, this kind of demystifying side, because it feels like quite an open sort of topic, like what is a skills-based organisation?
Well, exactly. And the way that I think about it is it's about a fundamental shift in how organisations think about their people, and recognising that people are beyond their job title and they have a range of capabilities from their previous organisations that they might have worked for or what they do in their personal time. So it's thinking holistically about that person and enabling that person to play various roles that the organisation needs. So that means two fundamental shifts, really. One, how people think about talent and what they are capable of, and secondly, how you think about work and actually breaking that more down into tasks and skills so that you can match the right people to the work. So it is a fundamental shift in how we think about work itself.
Yeah, I want to ask Romes in a second about the different chapters, because we've obviously broken it down into 6 different areas. But before we do that, just as a little add-on from me, one of the things I think is really, really interesting, if I think about my own personal journey and skills, and actually, Gems, I'd love to get your view on this as well. Like, if I think about myself, I joined Lace 5 years ago, and I had a set of skills, and now, 5 years later, I've acquired a new set of skills, or well, I have those skills and I've almost bolted those on as I've started to learn a bit more. I started to have passions in certain areas. You know, I didn't actually do podcasting and when I first joined Lace, but now we do it every single week. And then I think about, and this is what you were talking about, Pav, like the coding of it, like that, like we haven't logged that anywhere. Now for us as a small business, 100 people, that's quite easy. But if you magnify that out to a 10,000 person business, organisation's going to find this challenging, right?
Yeah.
Absolutely. And I think it's not just that there's a set number of skills that you can choose from. It's always growing and evolving. So we look at a proportion, let's say 50% of skills are core and will stay the same, but then the remaining 50% of them are evolving and they'll be new, and there's some that will move away and we no longer need. And that's driven by a lot of things. So it's not like you can take it at one snapshot. You need to keep evolving and updating it. And to Pav's point, in terms of the skills we're looking at, it's not necessarily just the hardcore work-orientated ones. There's some elements outside of work that will help shape and inform and get better benefit for the individual out of the work that they're in the workplace. So it's collecting all of that information and data to enable us to manage and enable talent better.
Cool. So Romes, let's do a little bit of a teaser, if you like, about what we've got coming up for the campaign. And we're going to be running this campaign for a number of months over the summer and then autumn period. But can you just give our lovely watchers of video or listeners to the audio platform a little bit of a breakdown as to what we're talking about in each of the different sections, and then we'll start to delve into like what are the benefits and things like that.
Yeah, absolutely. So the premise is, and it has been coined by Pav, becoming skills powered, because we wanted to talk about the opportunities that going into a skills-based organisation might offer. But we wanted to also add a practical lens to help people understand that it's not for everyone and it's not for every single use case.
Absolutely.
So we have kind of designed the campaign to do, starting with the foundations, what do you need? What are the basics to get going? Then we're going to talk about the strategy around skills, and that kind of links to our work on the hot model stuff, which is basically saying, look, don't just do it because it's trendy. Skills can be a really good, powerful tool that you can use to kind of drive business value, but determine what that is before you get started. Sometime in September, we'll be talking about mindset change and how you incentivize employees to care about their skills and to care about their career path. And also leadership. How do you get buy-in from kind of C-suite or other people and get them to help embed and foster that culture that it needs to kind of keep going? And then we've got a pretty big challenge. We're going to go through all the different employee lifecycle stages and talk about the entry points and practical use cases that people can use to kind of say, okay, if I want to boost my talent and attraction function, what are the ways I can do this, and what's the evidence, and break it down into practical terms. Does that sound like what we're doing?
It does sound like what we're doing.
Sound like
And we'll have some fun along the way.
Then there is some fun along the way. We're running some events later on at the end of the year. If you're interested in coming along, if you want to get involved, if you want to offer your insights, send me an email, Romy at Lace Partners, and we'll get you involved. But yeah, more details to be released soon as we determine all the different events we want to do.
Yep, we've also got a survey which is out at the moment. So if you want to fill that in, Romes, it's on the website.
It certainly is, and you'll be able to find it on our campaign landing page, which is called Becoming Skills Powered.
Lovely. So let's talk a little bit around. So have you kind of you've set out the seed, if you like, as to the perception, what it is, and Gems, you talked a little bit around this idea of there are different types of skills. Can we talk about a little bit around kind of the benefits almost? Because I guess there's two parts to this, isn't there? I'll ask you to go first, and then Gems, maybe just jump in, and then we'll do a reverse. So you can take your pick. Whether you want to talk about orgs first or employees.
I will take orgs. As the world changes incredibly fast, I think Josh Berson's coined the term super VUCA. You can no longer even prepare for the changes that are going to happen in the world, whether that's due to organizational changes, acquiring new businesses, or actually fundamental shifts like COVID, AI and Gen AI just changing the nature of jobs. We are going to live in a world where people need to constantly refresh skills. And what that means is you cannot have a talent attraction and talent acquisition campaign to cope with the rapid change that organisations will see. So from an organisational perspective, looking at skills holistically across the current company, current talent, allows you to manoeuvre people into the areas of work that you actually need as you grow and change. So that impacts, agility, but it also impacts cost. And as organisations really try and grow, as the UK now is putting more and more emphasis on growth, cost is going to be a big element. The second piece is around actual skills. We have a skills shortage. The World Economic Forum has some very scary statistics around skills that we are lacking over the course of new years. I mean, 2030 doesn't feel like that long away, and the skills gap is growing in some of the biggest economies in the world. So what organisations have to be better at is to constantly refresh and upskill people already in the organisation, rather than try and find these unicorns that may not exist. Really, world changes are meaning that organisations are seeing massive benefits in taking a skills-based approach.
Yeah, and in terms of, so that's kind of like the benefits from an organisational point of view, but from an employee's point of view, you can see natural benefits as a result of adopting this kind of skills-powered or skills-based organisations approach, right, Jeff?
Absolutely. The first one being that Mike Powell was talking about in terms of the future of skills, we can see it changing, growing. Taking a skills approach means that individuals will have a better idea of what do they need to do and how do they attach that to learning. So how do they understand where they need to go and learn, what they might be interested in, things like that. So it helps with a bit more transparency for that. The second part is then agility. So agility for organisations, but agility for individuals. Historically, we've looked at skills aligned to job families or into departments, functions. This gives an individual a lot more agility to go, okay, I've got this base skill, I can go and take that into that role. And it breaks down some of the barriers that we've previously seen. So those would be the
in
two
between
pieces.
like departments and between teams. So if you're a strong project manager, but you work in design, but actually you see in like a gig economy, which we'll come on to and how it all operates, but if you see the job come up, you can kind of put your hand up to it and say, I've got the skills for that. Can I join in, and can I get experience in this other part of the business?
I was actually going to jump on one of your points that you made, Gemma, around people's extracurricular non-work activities. And what the skills-based approach enables you to do is recognise maybe someone has been a mother for 12 years and has been out of the workplace, but they have so many skills that they have learned through that really difficult time. Getting more people into the workplace is really, really important. It can create a lot of opportunities for diverse sets of groups because you're looking at things more from a skills lens rather than purely work experience.
Yeah, I think as well, we've started to talk about this as we were building sort of the narrative around this campaign, this idea around, you just mentioned it, mothers, but actually we've talked about multi-generational workforces, older workers, potentially tapping into those skills where previously very much we haven't seen as much as that. As you said, right at the beginning, there is midway through, there is a skills shortage at the moment. It's what governments are talking about right now.
And the untapped workforces, and whether that's mothers returning to work, ex-cons, which we were talking about recently. There's a lot of different, neurodivergent segments within your workforce, and it's about how can you build a skills-based organisation that's also supporting all these different populations, because that's not a one-size-fits-all approach, is it?
Not at all. And absolutely, it's the untapped skills within your organisation as well, because I don't think a lot of organisations know the true skill sets that they've got within the business, and this approach helps to unlock some of that.
Yeah, I really love the idea as well of how more empowering it'll be, not just for organisations, when you've got that tapping into skills within your organisation. Actually, there's a money-saving opportunity there as well, because actually we can then start to redistribute our workforce. We can start to actually maybe keep people a bit longer, because if you're in a certain job, not really feeling that job at the moment, wouldn't mind fancy doing what those guys are doing over there. If I think we'll probably do a whole section on
we will, and that's some of the quick benefits that you can get from taking a skills-based approach, because you don't need to walk that amazing project manager that you talked about in design. If we moved that person even for a day a week or a couple of hours a week to work on a project, doing project management for a different part of the organisation, you can already unlock benefits quite quickly. So we will be talking more about gigs and marketplaces.
Collaboration, creativity, and all the kind of outcomes from that.
Yeah, indeed. One of the things I do want to touch on, because I'm just conscious people either watching this video or listening in right now might be thinking, and I want to get your kind of general views on this. This feels a little bit complicated. Like we have our processes in place at the moment, and this feels like a complete mindset shift. Are we culturally geared up for it? What work do I have to do? Where do I even have to start? So can I get any thoughts, either Pav, Gems, or Rose, whoever wants to jump in first on that one?
I think it's as complicated as you make it. So part of the chapter 4 is about looking at it from an employee life cycle and looking at those different entry points and how to take a practical view. So we'll be trying to break down that view of that it's harder than it is. Skills it's been around for a long time. It's not like skills is a new topic. It's just it's a mindset shift, I think, rather than necessarily a broader, more complicated piece. There's some things that we can put in place to make it easier, but in terms of general terms, no, it's not super complicated. I think it's just the way that everyone's talking about it, and it makes it feel a little bit more complicated than it is.
Yeah, it almost feels like some of the stuff you read, it's like companies are thinking we have to flip our operating model completely upside down. But that's...
And you can, and it can do that. It depends how you want to approach it, and so sometimes it will do that, and it will change the ways that you work. But you can nibble away at it, or you can do a wholesale change. It's your choice.
Yeah, absolutely. Only another plug for our beautiful campaign, but we will be talking about setting some of those foundations up, thinking about, what is the language that we're going to use in our organisation around skills. So some of those basics you might need to do, but completely, as Gemma says, there's a way of eating this elephant.
Yeah, absolutely. So I just wanted to, as we start to wrap up this short pod that we've done today, live pod, first time we've done that. Well, it's not a live pod, it's a
vid pod.
Mixed media pod.
The vid pod, a mixed media pod, I like that. So just as we wrap up today, any kind of final thoughts from each of you on the campaign, or maybe bits that you're quite interested to delve into a little bit more detail? I will start with Pav.
I love gigs and marketplaces, which is why I brought it up and jumped on your question. And I think that's just, for me as an employee, the benefit that you could get from doing gigs, marketplaces. We're all consultants here, so that idea of you going to multiple different engagements and learning lots, I think, is just so revolutionary for normal organisations.
James?
The best thing about my job and about all the different work that we do is taking quite abstract theories and concepts and making them into something that people can use in a practical case. And I think there's a lot of theory in this space, and then there is a way of like boiling that down into practical nuggets, which I'm excited to deliver.
Lovely. Before I go to Gemma, actually, that's just a little follow-on question there, and all of you guys can answer it if you like, but do you think it's because people kind of view it as this big thing and that's why they're not doing it at the moment, whereas if it's presented to you in a more simplified, basically, as you said, James, you can do small, sort of make small incremental changes. You can do the big thing. So what's your kind of view on that?
Our survey so far says that people don't know where to start. And I think that's a big thing because it's a big old topic and there's a lot of entry points. And so far, I think it's 47% have said they don't know where to start. So we'll find out in a few months whether that stays the same, but we'll watch the space.
And so I don't necessarily have specific questions. I think we've tried to feed that into the chapters that we've got. But I'd be really intrigued to hear what your thoughts are. So that's important to fill in the survey. Send us in any questions that you've got or areas that you want us to uncover, and that will be part of the campaign that we'll be doing over the next few months.
Absolutely brilliant. So hopefully you've enjoyed this quick whistle-stop tour, little entry point for our latest campaign, which is, as I said right at the beginning, and we've kind of interceded and woven into this podcast today, Becoming Skills Powered. As I mentioned, it will be available on our website. We'll be launching it with a short video. There'll be podcasts that will be going out. We're not just going to give a lace perspective. We will, of course, inevitably give a lace perspective, but we're going to be getting some external thoughts as well, both from clients that we've got, thought leaders in the industry. We're going to bring together a lot of different viewpoints so that we can really start to delve into it, but also, as Pav said, as Rome said, as Gems have said, kind of demystify it as well, because it's not this big scary thing that is going to take forever and mean that you turn your world upside down, but it is something that the world of work is evolving into. Pav, thank you very much for being part of the show today.
Thank you.
And Rome's jolly good. Thank you very much for coming.
Thank you, Chris Howard.
And Gemma, as always. I should have gone you first, because once again, last but not least, but thanks for coming on. If you want to find out a little bit more about podcast, we've got a whole back catalogue. We've got over 200 episodes that we are releasing and you can get access to. Yeah, loads. Across everything HR, everything and anything HR. You can access that through SoundCloud, through our website. We're on all of the kind of places that you tend to get your podcast content from. You can wants to see all of our thought leadership, our white papers, videos, the works. But from myself, from Pav, from Rome's, and from James, thank you very much for watching, listening, and hopefully we'll catch you next time on the HR on the Offensive podcast. Bye.